We have Matthew Podolsky joining us today. Thanks for coming here, Matthew.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. First question. What factors impact slip and fall accident settlement amounts?
That's a really good question because there are a lot of factors, and no two cases are the same. And that's why we work so hard to uncover all the facts and evidence for each case because it's not a one size fits all. Typically, the biggest factor is going to be the damages that our clients suffered. By damages, I mean primarily the injuries they've suffered and the type of medical treatment that they needed to heal. For example, imagine if you were asked to sit on a jury for two different slip and fall cases, and you were charged with determining how much each person is entitled to. Let's say the first case, slip and fall, they went to the hospital, followed up with their primary care physician, and then felt fine, didn't need any further treatment. Then you have your second case, where also a slip and fall, they presented to the hospital, went to their primary care physician, but then also treated with a chiropractor, perhaps a specialist like an orthopedic, and maybe even needed surgery. You're likely to think that second case with the additional medical treatment suffered more harm, has more damages, and is entitled to more money. And that's why it's typically one of the biggest factors in determining the settlement amount or jury award in a slip and fall case.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. But what if I felt fine at first, but then the pain shows up later? Does that affect the claim, or how should I handle the immediate following the accident?
Depends. Because most times people won't realize symptoms right away. It takes time. After a car crash or a slip and fall, there'll be adrenaline pumping. They're not feeling the injuries right away. It's often, unfortunately, the next day they wake up feeling like they were hit by a ton of bricks. And that's perfectly fine. That will not affect the claim. On the other hand, if you haven't seen a doctor for 6 months since the fall, that is going to make it a bit more challenging to prove you've suffered significant injuries from that slip and fall without having immediate medical treatment to document those injuries.
So it doesn't have to be an immediate follow-up, but within a short window following the accident, you should seek medical assistance if necessary.
Correct. And it's not just for settlement. It's so that our clients can have a full, speedy recovery. Typically, the sooner you get treatment, the sooner you'll be able to heal and be on a path to the recovery.
Absolutely. Okay, so we talked about the physical injury portion of it a little bit. Let's talk about location. Does it matter where the fall happens? Like a grocery store versus someone else's house? Does that change things?
Yes and no. The damages is still basically the same process and theory that we use to maximize full compensation for our clients, but some of the legal standards and duties will change. Generally speaking, a business has a higher duty to make sure the premises is in a safe condition and to warn of any hazards than a homeowner would. There's also usually a lot more traffic in a business, potentially more business equipment and more hazards present than there would be in your neighbor's home, for instance.
And if I was at a business and an injury or an accident occurred, what if the property owner tries to fix the problem that caused the accident before an investigation can happen?
It's a really good question. What I always do, and anytime I have a slip and fall case, one of the very first things I'm doing is I'm sending out a preservation of evidence notice. That's going to put the at-fault party on notice that there's a pending claim and they need to preserve all forms of evidence. If they destroy any evidence after receiving that notice, they can be subject to sanctions by the court. Without that notice, they may have the opportunity to remove some evidence that we may want to see. So it's key in getting that notice out right away. The curing the hazard or fixing the hole in the ground, for example, after a fall is not necessarily an admission of guilt. And that's a Florida law policy because they don't want business owners or homeowners to avoid repairing hazards due to the fear that they think it may show negligence on their part. So the curing of the defect is generally not considered an admission of guilt.
Okay, that makes sense. And speaking on that, what's something you wish every business owner understood about preventing these kinds of accidents?
that it can cause serious injury. A lot of business owners will take things lightly, like freezer leaking water on the floor, and they'll think, it's not a problem, no one's going to get hurt. People get hurt. We have a lot of clients that we've helped that have suffered unfortunate, significant injuries due to slip and falls that some business owners just frankly do not take seriously.
So small issues can become big problems, and if they just address these small business practices, then they could avoid a lot of pain for everyone involved.
Exactly.
That makes sense. So just to overview, I immediately slip and fall at a business. What should I do immediately following, like that following week? How should I? What are the steps I should do to, um, if I feel that there might have been some negligence on the business owner's part? How should I handle everything?
Focus on your health. If you need immediate medical attention, get to a hospital or urgent care clinic right away. If you're well enough, take photographs of the hazard that caused you to fall. So if it's water on the floor, take photos of the water, take photos of their surrounding area, maybe the whole aisle, for example, that you fell down. Try to capture as much evidence as you can, and then contact Farah and Farah, and we'll step in and take care of the rest.